Hey there. Today, we're not just going to talk about theory. We are jumping straight into a hands-on workout. What's the goal? To absolutely master the art of the counterargument, making your points sharper and way more persuasive.
So, are you ready to build up that mental muscle? To think faster on your feet and see every single side of an issue? Yeah? Awesome. Let's get started.
Okay, here's our game plan for today. First, we'll cover how this whole workout works. Then, it's your turn with the main set. After that, we'll break down a pro-level argument, go over 7 golden rules, and finish up with your next challenge.
Right, before we dive into the main event, let's just quickly run through the rules of the game so you know exactly what's coming. It's a really simple 3-step process. First, I'm going to show you an argument. Second, you'll hit pause and take a minute to think and actually write down your own counterargument. Then third, we'll show you a possible counter so you can see how it stacks up. See? Simple as that.
All right, it is time for the main set. Get ready to really fire up those brain cells. We are going to tackle 6 common arguments all about homework. Let's do this.
And here we go, number 1. The argument is homework improves concentration skills. So what's a counter to that? Go ahead, hit pause right now and write down what you think.
And you're back. Okay, so one possible counter could be that for some students, feeling overwhelmed by homework actually reduces their focus. Now, the key here isn't about getting the one right answer. It's all about seeing that other valid perspectives exist. So if you came up with something different, that is fantastic.
Let's move on to argument number 2. Homework helps students prepare for exams. Seems pretty logical, right? But what's the other side of that coin? Pause here and come up with your counter.
Great thinking. You could totally point out that exam prep isn't something that only happens with homework. It can be done just as effectively through practice in class or, group study sessions. There are always multiple paths to the same goal.
Okay, argument number 3 for you. Homework encourages independent learning. It's a strong point for sure, but is it always true? Time to pause and write down your counter.
See, you're really getting the hang of this. A solid counter is that for some students, that frustration of working alone without guidance can actually kill their motivation to learn independently, which kind of defeats the whole purpose.
All right, here's argument number 4. Homework teaches time management. This is a classic defense of homework, right? So what's your counterargument? Go ahead and pause.
Exactly. You're tapping into the real-life challenges here. A perfect counter is that just juggling homework with everything else, sports, chores, a social life, can cause a ton of stress instead of actually teaching effective time management.
We are on to number 5. Homework allows teachers to identify weak areas. How could you challenge that idea? Pause here and jot down your thoughts.
Well thought. That's a really sharp point. You could argue that since homework isn't always done under ideal conditions, or let's be honest, even by the student themselves sometimes, it might not be a reliable way for a teacher to spot weaknesses at all.
And here we are, our final argument for this workout. Homework improves long-term learning habits. That is a pretty big claim. What's your counter? This is your last chance to pause and practice.
Fantastic job. A really strong counter here is that those crucial lifelong habits are also developed through other things, engaging activities like personal projects, hobbies, or even team sports, things that homework can sometimes take time away from.
Okay, you have done the hard work, you've done the reps on all those individual points. Now let's see how these skills come together when you're building a complete, well-structured argument.
So let's break this model argument down. What makes this thing actually work? Well, look at the bold words first. Valuable, clear, highly beneficial. That is persuasive emotive language, and it's designed to make the argument feel stronger emotionally. Now look at the italicized bits. We've got what's called a triple, using 3 words in a row like review, practice, and strengthen, which just sounds powerful and memorable. We also see words like can and may, which are modal verbs that frame possibilities in a really confident tone. The big takeaway here is that strong arguments aren't just about facts. They are crafted with very specific language choices.
So, how can we make this stuff a habit? Let's boil everything we've learned down into 7 golden rules you can use for any argument you ever have to write. Let's do a quick-fire round. 1. Start with a clear viewpoint. Know where you stand. 2. Support every single point with an explanation. Don't just make a claim. 3. Use that emotive and persuasive language we just talked about. 4.
Organize your ideas so they flow logically. 5. Keep your tone confident but always respectful. 6. At the end, restate your main opinion to really drive it home. And 7. Always check for clarity and correctness. A simple proofread goes a long way.
You did some fantastic work today. You've practiced, you've analyzed a model, you've learned the rules. So, what comes next on your journey to becoming a master debater?
Always remember this one crucial thing. There is rarely just one right counter-argument. Critical thinking is all about exploring multiple valid perspectives. And the more you practice, the more natural this skill is going to feel.
And that brings us to the end. I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. Of those 7 golden rules we just covered, which single one are you going to intentionally focus on the next time you write an argument? Thanks so much for joining in, and keep thinking critically.